Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. We have an amazing show for everybody today. What do we have, Krystal?
Indeed we do. We got a great panel in the house. Don Calloway and Marshall Kosloff. David Dayen's going to be here. Matt Taibbi has what is a fascinating new book that's part fact, part fiction that he wrote with a former drug dealer. So we're going to talk to him about what is going on there. And speaking of elaborate and bizarre schemes, new developments in the Matt Gaetz case.
I don't even really know where to begin. So my friend Joe Simonson and Emily at the Washington Examiner, they just broke this story. Let's put this up there on the screen. Basically, documents detail a wild, alleged $25 million Gaetz extortion scheme. Now, these documents allege a scheme which revolves around a former Air Force intelligence officer named Bob Kent and that attorney that we mentioned yesterday, David McGee, who Matt Gaetz claims is extorting him. It is somehow involved with a FBI investigator who wants to free Robert Levinson. You may know him as the former FBI agent who went missing in Iran. I think he's presumed dead and has been now for quite a long time. Anyway, so the general elements of the scheme are that Gaetz is being extorted for money. Gaetz and his family, apparently his father is a very wealthy man, for $25 million, which would then be used as part of a scheme for Project Homecoming, which would detail a plan to save Levinson. So they were detailing the $25 million as a payment. They were developing it as a loan. And somehow all of this comes back to that the idea that Gaetz is, quote, under investigation by the FBI for various public corruption and public integrity issues, and alleges that the FBI is aware of photos depicting Gaetz, quote, in a sexual orgy with underage prostitutes. This is according to that Project Homecoming.
The extortion
document. Whether it's true or not, we have no idea, no indication of that from the DOJ, nothing. What we know is that Matt Gaetz is under investigation for allegedly possibly, in the realm of investigation, transporting a 17-year-old girl across state lines for sex. So that is what is being under investigation.
Yes. So the story from Gaetz is that these dudes reached out to his dad.
Yes.
And he provided text messages and also this letter that allegedly was sent to his father as part of this extortion scheme. And the gist of the text and the letter from these dudes who claim that they're trying to get Robert Levinson out of Iran is that, look, we know your son's in trouble. We know he's under investigation from the FBI. Here's what we know about it. The FBI, this is, again, according to the weird extorter dudes, per Matt Gaetz' letter that he sent to this news outlet, the FBI became aware of compromising pictures depicting Congressman Gaetz and an election official involved in a sexual orgy with underage prostitutes in Florida during an unrelated investigation into political corruption and public integrity. It seems like that's an allusion to that businessman that Gaetz is affiliated with that we know is under investigation. They also say that this is, again, according to weird extortion dudes, so this does not mean that this is true, but according to weird extortion dudes, they also say that an underage girl has testified to a grand jury that he paid her for sexual activities.
That's right.
So they're saying, hey, look, we know you're under investigation and you're in trouble. Why don't you give us some money? But then the twist is the money is, according to them, not to go into their pockets, but they really just want to do this heroic thing and rescue Bob Levinson. And by the way, we're going to make you, not only are we going to get you out of trouble, but we're going to make you into a hero because we're going to publicly associate you with the return and the rescue of Bob Levinson. So you go from being, out on your ass and in trouble with the FBI and with the DOJ to being a hero for rescuing this guy. It's all totally insane and crazy. The lawyer who is caught up in all of this, who is mentioned in the weird extorter dudes letters that, again, this is a letter according to Congressman Gaetz that was sent to him and his dad. That lawyer is the longtime lawyer of the Levinson family.
That's right.
So there is that maybe connection, but yeah, it is a very, very tangled web here. And I think what we said yesterday remains really true. There are three basic possibilities here. One is that Gaetz is completely lying. This is all invented, et cetera, which honestly I find kind of hard to believe because it's so incredibly specific, and he's calling for them to release the tapes.
And there's documents.
His dad, there's some documents. I mean, obviously you could have forged or faked these, but that seems to be, for me, it's hard to imagine that with this level of specificity and just how freaking bizarre it is that he would have invented this from whole cloth. So I find that unlikely, but it's still possible that Gaetz is just lying about all of this, that he, committed crimes or did something that was at least highly sketchy that brought him under investigation. He's trying to cover it up with this scheme. The other thing is that he's telling the truth, that he's just being extorted, that he did nothing wrong, that they're just trying to use his prominence as a public figure to go after him and get money from him and his family. The other thing that is possible is that both things are true.
That's right.
That he did some illegal things, maybe with underage girls, maybe, other potential improprieties that are genuinely illegal or at least embarrassing and sketchy, and that he's also being extorted for those things. That, to me, seems entirely possible, if not the most plausible explanation for what's going on
It seems to be where, look, again, I have no idea, and we'll see where the facts lead us.
Yes.
These documents are pretty detailed. Like we said, he could have faked it, but it would include also, like, affirmation from the U.S. Attorney's Office saying that, yes, we can confirm your client is involved in terms of Don Gaetz, basically confirming that Don Gaetz was involved with the FBI in some way, in some sort of investigation to extortion. The bigger question here is about the fallout. And one of the things you very quickly noticed, is House Leader Kevin McCarthy of the Republican caucus, interviewed on Fox yesterday, asked what he was going to do if these allegations turn out to be true. Let's take a listen to what he said.
Will you take any action to remove Matt Gaetz from the Judiciary Committee while he's under investigation by the DOJ over whether he had a sexual relationship with a 17-year-old and paid for her to travel with him? That's something he denies, but that would be a violation of federal sex trafficking laws.
Look, I haven't heard from DOJ. I haven't been able to talk to Matt Gaetz yet. I just read the story. Those are serious implications. If it comes out to be true, yes, we would remove him if that was the case. But right now, as Matt Gaetz says, it is not true, and we don't have any information. So let's get all the information.
So, look, they said they're going to remove him if it does turn out to be true. At the same time, we mentioned Tucker Carlson's interview with Gaetz yesterday, but I don't think it can be understated just how bizarre it was with Gaetz trying to implicate Tucker somehow, being like, you'll remember we had dinner once, and Tucker was like, just to be clear, I have no idea.
I do not remember that.
You're talking about. And just to give you an idea of how extraordinary of a rebuke that he gave him after that interview, this is what he said on the air.
If you just saw our Matt Gaetz interview, that was one of the weirdest interviews I've ever conducted.
So that was important in the context of this. Gaetz has been going around all over town, and recall that the way this all began is that the story leaked in Axios Tuesday morning, that he was considering leaving Congress early in order to join Newsmax. Well, apparently he's been also telling people he was going to go work for Fox News and for OAN, to which people who work at both companies, let's put this up there on the screen, told the Daily Beast in response, no one with any level of authority has had any conversations with Matt Gaetz, and that, quote, we have no interest in hiring him. This is an official Fox spokesperson. Brutal. And even OAN's founder says he's, quote, not really hiring for shows right now. So not a great position to be in. Look, we have no idea what's true and what's not. I think the facts will bear themselves out. It does seem like a pretty wild scheme all the way around, in which, like you said, they're really not mutually exclusive in terms of what could be true and what is not. But at the same time, I am noticing this becoming very much like a culture war thing within the GOP, as in Jim Jordan and Marjorie Taylor Greene have both come out and said it's another witch hunt. Jim Jordan and them are defending Matt Gaetz. I think they're some of the only Republican lawmakers to actually step out and step up for him out there in public, which can show you, I mean, we said this yesterday, Gaetz is widely reviled by a lot of his colleagues. We covered that story in our panel about many GOP congressional officials. There were text messages flying around Washington. A lot of people will be very happy to see him go. He hasn't exactly made a lot of friends. Not necessarily the best people who he hasn't made friends with anyway, but it's just important to note that there's a lot of intersecting elements here. And, trying to break it all apart in what is an extraordinarily complicated story is just kind of insane. Outside of any ideology, like Republican, Trumpy, anti-establishment, et cetera, he just doesn't have a reputation for being a nice guy. That's just the bottom line. Oh. And so just like with Cuomo,
where when some allegations started to come out about him that started to land, started to stick, started to get him in trouble, it was just one shoe drop after another, after another, after another, because the people that are his own aides and people that are around him, they don't like him. So they're happy to, when they have the chance to stick the knife in, they're happy to do it. And so I think that's a little bit of what you're seeing here with Matt Gaetz, where the overwhelming majority of Republicans are happy to just let him twist in the wind and see where this all goes, and would be, I think, just as happy to see him gone without them having to lift a single finger.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, we're going to tell you what's on our radar, so that's next.